a day of what do y'all do on a typical day of gator hunting? The show
You,
kind of
you
doesn't.
don't, you don't have enough time right here to sit down and tell you.
The alligator hunters of swamp people built their reputations not just on grit and instinct,
That first started the show, she told us that. She said, look, when this thing's going to hit, you're not going to be able to go anywhere without people recognizing you.
but on loyalty, survival, and hard work passed down through generations. Week after week, viewers watched them wrestle 100-pound reptiles, navigate the unforgiving bayous of Louisiana, and live out a vanishing way of life. What the cameras didn't show was what happens when the battles are not against nature, but against time, illness, and unseen burdens. The Landry family has long stood at the center of this story. Troy Landry, the man fans know as the King of the Swamp, has become one of the most recognized faces in the world of outdoor reality television. Born in 1960 in Louisiana, Troy grew up with his feet in the swamp and a rifle in his hands. He turned gator hunting into a full-time profession, one that became the backbone of the show's earliest seasons. But behind the camera, Troy is not just a hunter, he's a father, a grandfather, and now, a man watching someone he loves suffer through a medical battle he cannot control. Troy's grandson, Crew, was born with a rare and life-threatening liver condition called biliary atresia. The disease blocks or damages the bile ducts, causing a buildup of bile in the liver and eventually leading to liver failure if untreated. Crew underwent surgery in an effort to reverse the condition, but it was unsuccessful. Today, he is facing end-stage liver disease and is in urgent need of a liver transplant. Troy, who has spent most of his life solving problems with his own hands, is now fighting a battle he cannot fix with a hook or a boat. On social media, he has shared regular updates with his fans, announcing his grandson's diagnosis, expressing hope, and encouraging people to consider organ donation. He and his family also launched a fundraising campaign to help pay for the mounting medical expenses. Even with a national television platform and a loyal fan base, the costs have proven overwhelming. Despite the emotional weight of the situation, Troy has continued filming for the show. He remains a central figure on Swamp People, still hauling gators and mentoring his sons. But his focus has shifted. His voice occasionally shakes in interviews, and there is a heaviness in his expressions that fans have picked up on. Off camera, he spends his time with Crew and the rest of his family, trying to hold things together with the quiet resolve that has defined him for decades. Troy's story is not one of weakness. It is one of strength being tested. It's about what happens when the biggest challenge comes not from the swamp, but from the waiting room of a children's hospital. As the family waits for a donor, fans around the country have offered prayers, donations, and encouragement. But time is not something Troy can wrangle. And for the first time, the King of the Swamp is asking for help. Chase Landry, Troy's youngest son, has faced a different kind of trouble, one that didn't come from the natural world, but from a moment of panic and a loaded weapon. Chase first appeared on Swamp People during its second season and quickly became known for his daring, sometimes reckless style. While his older brother Jacob carried the family legacy with steadiness and calm, Chase brought energy, intensity, and a touch of unpredictability to the boat. Fans loved his boldness, but that same boldness nearly cost him his freedom. In September 2016, Chase was navigating the waters in Louisiana when another boat began approaching at high speed. Chase later told authorities he feared the boat was going to crash into his vessel. Acting on impulse, he pulled out a firearm and fired a warning shot. Unfortunately, the shot struck the other boat. No one was injured, but the damage was done. Law enforcement quickly stepped in. Chase was arrested and charged with illegal discharge of a firearm. Things became even more complicated when he failed to appear in court. As a result, a warrant was issued for his arrest. For someone so often in control of his surroundings, Chase had suddenly lost control of his narrative. Media coverage was swift, and opinions were divided. Some saw it as a justified act of self-defense, while others called it reckless endangerment. The legal situation was eventually resolved, but it left a stain on Chase's public image. The episode was a reminder that even in the swamp, the rules of the outside world apply, and that a split-second decision can change everything. Chase has since returned to filming and continues to be a presence on the show. Off-screen, he runs a seafood restaurant and spends time with his young daughter, Riley Blake Landry. While he rarely speaks publicly about the incident, those close to him suggest it was a turning point. The tension between living a high-adrenaline life and facing real-world consequences is something Chase still navigates, just like the swamp itself. Fast-moving, full of risk, and never fully predictable. But the Landrys are not the only ones who have been caught in the crosshairs of the law. R.J. Molinari, another original fan favorite, found himself in even deeper legal waters. And this time, it wasn't just about a bad decision. It was about violence. R.J., known for his disciplined approach to hunting and his strong bond with his son Jay Paul, was widely admired by fans for his warrior-like strength and calm demeanor. Together, the father-son duo became one of the most respected teams on the show. That reputation came under fire in 2013 when they were involved in a road rage incident that spiraled into physical violence. According to police reports, R.J. and Jay Paul got into a confrontation with another driver. The argument escalated quickly, and what happened next was both shocking and disappointing to their fans. The two men allegedly attacked the other driver, first with fists, then with a beer bottle. The victim sustained serious injuries. When police arrived, R.J. and Jay Paul had already fled the scene. An investigation followed, and both were arrested and charged with felony battery. For viewers who saw R.J. as a symbol of discipline and level-headedness, the news came as a shock. The story made headlines, and although neither man served prison time, the charges changed how some fans viewed them. Appearances on the show became more limited, and the aura of respect they had built through years of quiet strength was fractured. Even now, the incident remains a sore point in the public memory. Neither R.J. nor Jay Paul has given detailed interviews about what happened that day. They've chosen silence, perhaps hoping that time would dull the scandal's sharp edge. But for many fans, the incident revealed a hidden reality. The stress and pressure of fame, especially when combined with deeply personal tempers, can explode in unexpected and damaging ways. R.J. has continued to hunt and occasionally appears on social media. But his days as a central character on Swamp People have faded. The father-son bond remains strong, but their legacy has shifted, from respected hunters to controversial figures, whose off-camera decisions cast a long shadow over their on-screen image. Bruce Mitchell, another original face in the Swamp People family, hasn't faced legal charges, but the loss he endured was no less profound. Bruce Mitchell has long been known for his steady presence and calm voice among the cast of Swamp People. With his signature American flag bandana and his no-nonsense attitude, Bruce became one of the most relatable and grounded personalities in the swamp. But one of the most emotional moments in his journey wasn't broadcast as part of a dramatic hunt. It happened quietly, in real life, with the loss of a companion that fans came to love just as much as Bruce himself. Tyler, Bruce's loyal yellow Labrador retriever, wasn't just a pet. For years, Tyler was by Bruce's side on nearly every episode, riding in the boat, sitting quietly during hunts, and even getting a few laughs from the audience when he barked at alligators or chased after frogs. Tyler joined the show when he was just 4 months old, and over time, he became one of its most familiar and beloved faces. In 2014, Tyler passed away after battling congestive heart failure, a condition that had gradually worsened over the course of 3 years. Though the news didn't make headlines in the same way some of the cast's other challenges did, it deeply affected Bruce, and his fans noticed. For a man who rarely showed emotion on camera, the absence of Tyler was felt immediately. Bruce later shared that the loss hit him hard, describing Tyler as a swamp partner and family member. Since Tyler's passing, Bruce has continued to appear on the show, sometimes in a more limited capacity. He still maintains a connection with the swamp, his fans, and his roots, but those who have followed him closely know that the quiet moments, those between the camera cuts, are filled with memories of his lost friend. His resilience has never been in question, but his story reminds us that not all grief comes from dramatic moments. Sometimes it's found in the silence of a boat ride, with an empty seat beside you. As emotional as Bruce's loss was, it is only one example of how the swamp itself can wear down even the strongest. For many cast members, the daily grind of hunting, filming, and surviving in unpredictable conditions has become a source of growing pressure. While Swamp People has always romanticized the thrill of the hunt, the truth is that bayou life has never been easy. And as the years go by, many of the show's most seasoned hunters are quietly carrying the weight of aging bodies, rising costs, and an unforgiving lifestyle that offers no guarantees. Fuel prices have soared. Boat repairs and maintenance eat into whatever income is left after the gator season ends. Equipment is more expensive, licensing fees are higher, and unpredictable weather can wipe out entire weeks of opportunity. For cast members who rely entirely on hunting and fishing, not just for the show but to feed their families, the stress has reached new levels. Some have turned to merchandise sales and fan support to make ends meet. Others, while still on the show, are taking fewer hunting trips than in earlier seasons. There are subtle signs that the work is wearing them down. More social media posts from home instead of the swamp, longer stretches between public appearances, and a greater reliance on nostalgia and fan memory than current action. This is not the kind of struggle that makes headlines, but it is real. Some of the original cast are no longer in their prime. They are older, their shoulders worn out from years of pulling lines, their backs stiff from lifting gear. Viewers notice when an old favorite is only featured in a handful of episodes, but the reasons are rarely explained. Even for those still active, like Troy and Chase, the physical toll is visible. Fans have commented on how tired some cast members appear, and it's not just age, it's accumulation. Life in the swamp is beautiful, but it is also punishing. There are no off-seasons in real life, no retakes, no scripted help. Just water, heat, mosquitoes, and responsibility. And while physical exhaustion is hard enough, the emotional strain of being a public figure in such a tight-knit community adds another layer of pressure. Some of the remaining original cast members have withdrawn from public life, not because they're finished with hunting, but because they're finished with being watched. There is a silence growing around some names who used to be regular fixtures on the show. They have not been officially written off, nor have they announced retirements. But they appear less, post less, and speak less. The assumption is often that they are simply resting or focusing on family. And while that may be true, it is also likely that years of emotional exposure, online commentary, and production stress have taken their toll. It's a side of reality TV rarely discussed, the burnout that comes from living your real life in front of cameras. For men and women who value privacy, solitude, and the rhythm of nature, that kind of attention can slowly erode the very peace they've spent their lives seeking in the swamp. Many of these hunters never asked to be famous. They were invited to share what they were already doing. But once they stepped into the spotlight never let go. There's also the added layer of pride. These are not people who will openly admit when they are struggling. Pride and resilience are woven into the culture of swamp living. Asking for help, especially financial help, is a last resort. So when someone like Troy Landry publicly advocates for his grandson's medical care, or when a cast member quietly leans on merchandise income, it means the need is real and pressing. Mental fatigue, financial pressure, and physical wear are not as flashy as a boat chase or a giant alligator, but they are part of the real cost of the swamp. The cast members who are still with us are living proof that strength doesn't always look like shouting "shoot it" on camera. Sometimes it looks like carrying on, even when the weight is heavier than it used to be. And that quiet strain is perhaps clearest in the way some cast members simply fade, not from life, but from visibility. They are still out there in the bayou, still pulling lines and fixing motors, still teaching their children how to hunt. But they are doing it off camera now, without the fanfare, and without the safety net of a television contract. The silence of those who step away from the spotlight is often louder than the ones who stay. For many original Swamp People cast members, the decision to reduce their on-camera presence has less to do with the show's direction and more to do with the burdens they quietly carry. After over a decade in front of millions of viewers, many of these hunters have reached a point where privacy feels like the only remaining refuge. Some of them now post updates sparingly, appearing in the background of newer seasons, or making quiet cameos. These appearances are often short, sometimes limited to a scene or two. When they do speak, it's usually about the hunt, not what's weighing on them personally. But fans have noticed. They ask in comment sections, "Where's so-and-so?" Or, "Why doesn't he talk much anymore?" The answers are rarely given directly, and they don't need to be. Because in the bayou, silence often speaks for itself. There is a pride among the swamp's hunters, an unwritten rule about not showing weakness. That pride, while admirable, also hides struggles that deserve attention. Some of the original cast members are simply tired. Not tired of the swamp, but tired of trying to balance the pressures of television with the realities of their lives. Whether it's aging joints, economic instability, or the quiet heartbreak of family loss, these are the types of burdens that don't make it into an episode cut, but they live in the faces of the men and women we've watched for years. J. Paul Molinari is one of those faces. While his father, R.J., faced the public fallout of their legal troubles, J. Paul's retreat from the spotlight has been even more subdued. Once a vibrant and vocal presence on the show, J. Paul stood out not only for his youth and athleticism, but also for the respectful and focused way he handled himself. A former mixed martial arts fighter, he brought discipline and drive to the family's hunting team. His bond with his father was central to their appeal, 2 generations working side by side, passing down knowledge while battling the swamp together. But following the violent incident in 2013, in which both he and his father were charged with felony battery after a road rage altercation, J. Paul began to appear less frequently. The attack, involving fists and a beer bottle, shocked fans who had seen the Molinares as level-headed and family-oriented. While legal consequences followed, it was the reputational damage that cut deepest. Their legacy as icons of strength in the swamp became clouded by an act of aggression they have never publicly explained in detail. J. Paul's gradual withdrawal from the public eye has continued over the years. While his father still makes occasional appearances, J. Paul has kept mostly to himself. His social media presence is minimal, and he no longer plays a consistent role in the show's newer seasons. Whether the choice is based on personal healing, privacy, or simply a new direction in life, it reflects the kind of emotional strain that fame often leaves behind. The silence isn't just absence, it's a decision. A decision to live without the weight of scrutiny, and perhaps a quiet way to rebuild without cameras watching every step. For J. Paul, stepping back may have been the healthiest path forward, but it is also a reminder of how quickly a respected name can become a source of controversy, and how hard it is to walk away from that shadow. And yet, among all these quiet retreats, there's one person who remains active, visible, and proud: Troy Landry. But that visibility comes at a cost. And for Troy, the cost is now measured in sleepless nights and hospital visits, not just boat fuel and broken reels. Troy's presence on the show continues to anchor each season. Fans find comfort in his consistency, his work ethic, and the way he keeps his family together. But the strength he shows on camera often contrasts with the emotional strain he's facing off camera. His grandson Crew's condition has not improved. Born with biliary atresia, Crew is still waiting for a liver transplant, and the family continues to share updates, often marked by hope, but also by fatigue. In recent posts, Troy has spoken with unusual vulnerability. His voice carries more pause, and his words are more direct. There's no sense of dramatizing the situation, just a grandfather confronting one of the hardest chapters of his life. He has used his platform not for promotion, but for advocacy, sharing organ donation resources, thanking supporters, and reminding people that no one, not even a man who wrestles alligators for a living, is immune from heartbreak. What makes Troy's struggle so poignant is how personal it is. He's not facing financial ruin or legal action. He's not the victim of a tabloid rumor. He's simply a grandfather watching a child suffer. And in a community like the Swamp, where generations live side by side and family is everything, that kind of pain cuts deeper than any physical wound. Fans have rallied around Troy. His posts received thousands of comments, many from people who have experienced similar health battles in their own families. There's a sense of collective mourning, but also of collective hope. The show's viewers aren't just watching for entertainment anymore, they're watching out of loyalty, empathy, and a desire to see Crew recover. This connection between cast and audience has always been a strength of Swamp People, but never more so than now. The fans aren't just followers, they're part of the extended family, carrying the emotional weight of these stories right alongside the people living them. And that emotional weight is becoming more visible across the board. It's not just the well-known names, but the culture of the show itself that's showing signs of fatigue. Episodes in recent seasons have started to change in tone. The hunts are still dramatic, but the banter is more subdued. The edits linger a little longer on expressions. There's more reflection in the storytelling and less urgency. It's not a drop in energy, it's a shift in mood. A quiet acknowledgement that things aren't the same as they were in the early seasons. Some cast members have chosen to express that mood through creative means. A few have turned to small business ventures, running local shops or online stores. Others are experimenting with YouTube channels or podcast interviews. These changes aren't just about diversification. They're a way to maintain identity outside of the show, to stay rooted when the Gator season ends and the cameras stop rolling. What remains consistent, though, is the thread of resilience. Even the cast members carrying grief, legal baggage, or emotional scars still find ways to show up, to work the lines, to share their heritage, to teach the next generation. But they're doing it more quietly now. Less for the spotlight and more for survival. For viewers who have followed Swamp People from the very beginning, the faces are more than just cast members. They're part of a legacy built not on glamour or staged drama, but on tradition, survival, and the unfiltered experience of life in the swamp. That legacy now stands at a difficult crossroads, not because the show is fading, but because the lives behind the screen are growing heavier. The older generation of Swampers, the men who helped define the series, now face more than just the usual grind of hunting season. For many, it's a daily calculation. How much energy do I have left? How much longer can I carry the weight of this lifestyle? These aren't men who complain. They just slow down, quietly. The fatigue is evident in the reduced screen time, the cautious way they now step into boats, the way their voices carry less adrenaline and more reflection. For the cast members still appearing regularly, that shift in tone has made its way into the very fabric of the show. It's no longer just about the thrill of the hunt. It's about endurance. How much they've given to this land, to this show, and to the audiences who watch them navigate both. One example of quiet resilience is Bruce Mitchell. After the loss of his dog Tyler in 2014, Bruce continued working, but those who know him well say he was never quite the same. Tyler was more than a dog. He was a fixture on Bruce's boat, a companion through heat, rain, and long hours of hunting. Bruce never made a show of his grief, but fans noticed the absence. His tone grew more subdued. His on-screen moments became less about laughs and more about legacy. And that's something more cast members are starting to face, the question of what they'll leave behind. In Bruce's case, he has remained deeply connected to the swamp, appearing in community events and keeping his voice alive through educational videos and public talks. But there is less urgency in his movement now, more care in how he explains things. Time has changed him, as it does everyone who works in the elements for decades. His strength remains, but now it's measured in patience, not pressure. RJ Molinaire, too, represents that complicated balance between pride and pain. Once one of the most celebrated names in the swamp, his legacy took a hit after the 2013 assault charge alongside his son, Jay Paul. They were known as the disciplined warriors of swamp people, focused, strong, respectful. But the violent road rage incident revealed a side that many fans hadn't seen coming. Though the legal matter was settled years ago, the consequences linger. RJ's appearances are fewer, and when he does appear, it's with less of the spotlight. The public memory is long, and rebuilding trust has been slow. Still, RJ has not disappeared. He continues to hunt and occasionally surfaces on social media. But like many others, he seems to be choosing quiet consistency over full-time visibility. The road back from public scandal is steep, especially in a community that values humility and honor. And in RJ's case, that journey continues, quietly, but with effort. Even among the newer faces who gained attention in more recent seasons, the same pressures are beginning to show. The fame that once opened doors now demands constant maintenance, content, merchandise, appearances. The pace is unsustainable for many. Some, like Cheyenne Pickle Wheat, have diversified by creating merchandise and engaging fans through social platforms. But even then, the reality is clear. Sustaining a livelihood off the swamp requires more than just catching gators. It requires constant adaptation, and not every cast member is built for that shift. Those who came to the show simply to live as they always had now find themselves in a new kind of survival, one of branding, appearances, and staying relevant. Others have taken a different path altogether. Some have returned full-time to local businesses, relying on their skills and community rather than national exposure. A few have taken long breaks from filming, citing personal reasons. And many have simply faded from the spotlight without announcement, their absence left to be filled by speculation. But those who remain carry the weight not just of their own struggle, but of everyone who once stood alongside them. When a cast member like Mitchell Guist or Randy Edwards passes, their absence ripples through the swamp community. Those losses are still felt, still spoken about in private conversations among cast and crew. Their legacies hang in the humid Louisiana air, a constant reminder of what this lifestyle asks of those who choose it. And at the center of all this, still steady, still showing up, is Troy Landry. But even the king of the swamp is showing signs of wear. Troy's updates about his grandson Crew's condition have become more frequent and more raw. The family's fundraising continues. The wait for a transplant stretches on. And behind every smile Troy gives to the camera is a man who carries the fear that something precious could be lost. He hunts, he films, he posts. But his mind, clearly, is on Crew. It is a pain that no amount of hunting can distract him from. And though fans continue to rally around him, the stress is visible. His fight is not in the swamp anymore. The alligator hunters of swamp people built their reputations not just on grit and instinct, but on loyalty, survival, and hard work passed down through generations. Week after week, viewers watch them wrestle 100-pound reptiles, navigate the unforgiving bayous of Louisiana, and live out a vanishing way of life. What the cameras didn't show was what happens when the battles are not against nature, but against time, illness, and unseen burdens. The Landry family has long stood at the center of this story. Troy Landry, the man fans know as the King of the Swamp, has become one of the most recognized faces in the world of outdoor reality television. Born in 1960 in Louisiana, Troy grew up with his feet in the swamp and a rifle in his hands. He turned gator hunting into a full-time profession, one that became the backbone of the show's earliest seasons. But behind the camera, Troy is not just a hunter, he's a father, a grandfather, and now, a man watching someone he loves suffer through a medical battle he cannot control. Troy's grandson, Crew, was born with a rare and life-threatening liver condition called biliary atresia. The disease blocks or damages the bile ducts, causing a buildup of bile in the liver and eventually leading to liver failure if untreated. Crew underwent